everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday. That was Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon edition of Box Seats. I'm your host, Frank Holder. Y'all, thank you for joining the show. Today, we are joined with a comedian known as Fig and a comedian, a person who loves comedy by the name of Amir Sealy. Amir, thank you for joining the show, man. We appreciate you being able to take the time out of your day. I know you're a fan of the show. You normally watch the show. And I know Fig has been traveled the world doing comedy and all types. If y'all are not familiar with Fig, he's joined the world in comedy and been in comedy for a lot of years. So first and foremost, thank you all for joining the show. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, good to be here on the box seat.
Yeah. I appreciate that. So for those who also watch the show continuously, Talent is unable to join the show for traveling, and Rodney Perry's doing the exact same thing. You know, sometimes being in the show in the middle of the day, it affects people's schedule. So that's just what it is. Now to get the show started, I always start off with the COVID report. The COVID report has expanded a little bit since yesterday when I was talking about the NCAA officials who basically caught COVID and had to pull out. Well, as of this morning, it looks like double the amount of NCAA officials caught COVID and had to pull out the situation, heading down there. And I think that's not being reported. I think the NCAA is about to have a huge concern with people who are going down there early and being tested and having COVID. And I hope that they, Fig, I'm going to start this out with you. I hope that they have some kind of contingency plan for all the amount of people who are about to descend down there and get into that bubble that might have COVID, and it might affect some of the games. You know what I mean? What's your thoughts, Fig?
Man, I think the way to have avoided this was to, possibly create a bubble and do it early, like do it in advance, at least 2 weeks. I mean, if you're going to test people when they come down there and the incubation or, the time period that you need to quarantine yourself is 2 weeks, then they should have had the people just come down 2 weeks early, stay in a bubble type situation. And then this way, if they clear the protocol, they'll clear the protocol in enough time to be able to do what it is necessary for them to be able to do, whether it be referees, coaches, even the players. If the players could have gone down there 2 weeks early, take their COVID test, quarantine, be in a bubble type situation, then we could alleviate these problems. The thing with me is that we've seen an example of the way to do this with little or no effect at all when the NBA went into the bubble during the NBA playoffs and when they finished off last season. They had 0 incidents. Nobody's taking a page out of that book, and it doesn't make sense to me because it worked.
Right. Amir, what are your thoughts on this whole situation of what we were just talking about?
Well, I think that it is a bit scary and, I'm sure challenging, not only for the players, but for the families. I mean, one of the amazing things about the NCAA tournament is, to me, by far, it's probably the greatest one single sporting event that we have going. And it is for this simple reason to me. It allows us to discover young men and young women who we might not have had, knowledge of before. Most schools already have the stars that we know of and things like that, but a lot of times we get diamonds in the rough from this particular tournament. And I think the fact that, a lot of these kids are now having to, and as well as the, schools themselves, have to deal with this particular situation is rough on everybody.
Right,
so, Fig's point, I think he's absolutely right. I wish, they would take a page out of some models that have already worked and say to themselves, let's figure out what we could do that's similar to that and put everybody in the best, position possible.
Let's be honest. A lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, became household names because of their performance in the NCAA tournament, especially names who we haven't even seen and everything else because, these NCAA games, a lot of them, 99% of them don't get nationally televised. So you have no idea who the people are until the tournament. And then when the tournament happens, so with that thought process, I think the powers that be behind the NCAA push forward with that to help these guys get on, number one. And number two, and probably it should have been in reverse, but it's the money. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. The schools get a huge amount of money when their team is being broadcast on a nationally televised game because the broadcasting rights is just ridiculously, the money for that one game that's being broadcast is a ridiculous amount of money, and that's why they hope and press that their team can continue on in the tournament. Every single game you move on, more money. So everybody's happy for different reasons. You know what I mean?
And it's March Madness is probably, like Amir said, like one of the biggest sporting events. I think March Madness would be right up there with the Olympics, man. You know, as far as viewership and stuff like that, you know, here in America, I'm saying here in America, March Madness. Okay, you say no. So I won't finish my point.
No, I'm not saying no. I'm saying I don't know about that. I'm saying I don't know. I don't know because the Olympics has all the sports, whereas people who love basketball will watch the NCAA March Madness tournament. When the Olympics is on, it's broadcasting baseball, basketball, football, soccer. Especially when you just add soccer, that wipes out the whole map of all the people who are watching, because people who don't normally watch TV will watch the soccer thing. I mean, I don't know, but I don't want to debate it because I really don't know.
I was on my caveat was, I don't know if you heard me, in America.
No,
I'm not
get
talking
that.
about worldwide. I'm only talking about here in the United States. You know what I mean? United States basketball is like, you know, it's next to the NFL.
And basketball is huge, but what you need to make sure you understand my point. When I said soccer, is there are a lot of minorities who are not counted in this country right now who love soccer and who watch soccer, which that's why I'm saying I don't know if it's the same, because I'm sure if they were to do an actual count of how many people watch soccer just in the States, it could equivalent the amount of people who watch basketball. You know what I mean? They don't really care about soccer like that, because soccer on that level is not played here. It's played overseas or more on a higher level. You know what I mean? It's played here, but not like it is overseas. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We could debate that. Anyway, let me talk about some baseball news. Then let me talk about some baseball news, because there's some news that jumped off the table here, and I'm sure you guys didn't hear this. You heard some of it, but you didn't hear the whole scope of it because it happened here in Boston. That was the fact that LeBron James purchased some shares of the Boston Red Sox. Now, what's not being reported, and I'm going to tell the audience out there, what's not being reported is why. Why would LeBron James purchase some shares of the Boston Red Sox? Is it because it's a good deal? Definitely. But what would be the inclination behind that? And I'm going to tell you, from being in the Boston market, I know that LeBron James got the shares of the Boston Red Sox for peanuts, but it was a complete and utter PR move, because the Red Sox are still reeling from the deal of shipping away Mookie Betts, and how the minorities here in Boston are still very upset that Mookie Betts is not here and walked away for only a $5 million difference. So when you hear, I'll dive into it in a second, but Fig, I want to hear your thoughts on LeBron James jumping into baseball. One, he's not even a Red Sox fan. He's a Yankees fan. But now, what was the deal like that? I was like, oh, okay, I'll purchase the Red Sox, some shares in the Red Sox. What's your thoughts when you hear that? When you first heard that, Fig? What's your thoughts?
First off, I just think it's a great move for Black men to invest, period, into stock markets, into business, so they can be their own bosses. But one thing that I did hear is that LeBron James is a part of he's a part of a group that buys or participates in buying shares of sporting groups. And this particular time, shares of the Boston Red Sox just came into play and was available. And the group that LeBron James was a part of purchased shares. And I guess since LeBron James is possibly the biggest name in the group, not saying he has the most money, but the person who is more how should I say, he's just more popular, and his face is out there, his name is out there, so they put it on LeBron James as if he just went out and bought it by himself.
All right, Amir, what's your thoughts when you hear about this? Amir, you there? Amir,
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, what's your thoughts about this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think, I think the fact that LeBron James is, obviously broadened his portfolio and moved into baseball, as well as some of the other, things that he's now, utilizing as his platforms to show, I think, first and foremost, a lot of our new and younger players that, you know, you have to get obviously beyond basketball. That's no disrespect to anybody. That doesn't mean that, you know, other players haven't, you know, done things similar to that in the past, because we know of other great players who have, you know, extensive portfolios. But I think what LeBron is doing for this generation and, you know, for this group of young people is helping them to see that, you know, even though there may be teams and cities that, you know, aren't your city, you can still be a part of something that in the long run has a payout and a dividend that is positive, not only for you, but obviously for your family and, you know, on down the line. So I think that, you know, I think it's great to see him and some of these other, you know, players starting to, you know, diversify themselves a bit in terms of looking into other ways that they can, you know, like I said, make their portfolio strong. It's something for all of us to take a page from, to be honest with you. You know.
All right, now let me say my 2 cents. I'm
Can
gonna
you
say
guys
my
hear me?
yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. Okay, let me say my 2 cents real fast. I'm gonna say this, and because of the PR hit that the Red Sox took, and because, you know, LeBron James, yes, he's part of a group. That's definitely, he's right. He's part of a group, but he's gonna get the name like how Magic gets the name for the Dodgers. He's part of a group. When you purchase teams of that level, you're part of a group. But the thing that I'm not liking is that his name is pushed in the forefront of that. I'm not liking that they did not address the other issues that's really maintaining in the Boston area and with the Boston Red Sox. And it's that you are using the word and having the word nigger be used, and I hate to use that word, but you're having the word be nigger used in the stands, and the players are playing in the field, and the players have asked that to be addressed, and you have not addressed that issue yet. But what happens is now you have players like Mookie Betts leaving, and then you have LeBron James purchasing the team shares of that, which people don't know outside the Boston market. There are no blacks, African Americans, minorities who will purchase tickets in the bleachers because that's a huge issue. It's a huge issue, and people are not talking about those issues right now because, again, you're only going to hear what the sporting news is going to feed you. But let me ask my Mello, one of my favorite comics in the game, get ready to join us. Scruncho, how you doing, brother? How's everything, bro? Scruncho, can you hear me? Scruncho, can you hear me? Scruncho, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. Now we can't hear you. We can't hear you. All right, I'm gonna take you out, brother, and bring you back in. Take yourself back out. See, Amir, tell me what you think after you just heard me say that. So can you hear me? I guess we're having technical difficulties with the brothers today, Fig. Tell me what your thoughts on this, bro.
I had no idea about you know, fans using the N-word towards the players and stuff like that during the game and stuff like that. Like you said, you're on the inside, you know, up there in the Boston area. I had no idea that stuff like that was still going on in this day and age. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, you know, it's embedded in the fabric of America, but still, when you hear it on such a broad level, and in major sports where the fans are supposed to be cheering for their particular team, and you have African American players on your team, and you yelling out, you know, the N-word, you yelling out nigga, you know what I mean? It just you know what? It is just sad, man. It's just sad that in the year 2021 that we're still going through this. It's just like, it just doesn't make sense. I had no idea that that the PR in Boston was that bad around the Red Sox organization, or still in that town. It's just sad, man. When you think about it.
Greg, let me just say this. Honestly, I don't even think LeBron James knows about that. I don't think that those issues are being addressed. I don't think those certain players who come in, they know about it. But if you as to ask baseball players, like when we had Kenny Lofton Kenny Lofton himself was offered a contract to come to the Boston Red Sox. It was more than anything at the time, and he turned it down because he didn't want to play for the Boston Red Sox. He turned it down. Now, you can go down a list of a lot of baseball players, which isn't known. This is not information that's known, but there's information that you can go down a lot of minority players that are of Latin descent or black who do not want to play in the Boston area, and that's bad off the top. But when you have a black player who does a lot of things like Mookie Betts did, listen, this is a tangent I could beat all the time. When you have a black player like of the magnitude of what Mookie Betts did, and he did in the community for such a long period of time, you know what I mean? And then he sits there and says, you know what? I don't want to be here, and I don't want to be here over only $5 million when he got paid 250 plus to almost $260 million, and he left for $5 million. That tells you a lot. You know what I mean? You can't tell me that. That just tells you a lot. But that's why I'm bent about LeBron James getting this, because I don't think he knows this type of stuff on this magnitude of this level of what's happening.
That LeBron James or his group would go into anything and not know all of the variables. You know what I mean, to the deal that they're making.
But Fig, who would tell?
I'm just saying. I mean, what I'm saying is that I believe that somebody would have done their due diligence and actually been in the Boston area or done some type of investigation. When you spend that kind of money on something, I think before you do, I think you go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. And they probably figured that's possibly why they got such a great deal on the part of the Boston Red Sox that they bought. That's probably why they got it, on the cheap, because of the problems that they having, and possibly they may be using LeBron James' name and his organization to possibly build a bridge and maybe work out some of those issues. I would hope that is the situation.
That's Amir, I'm gonna throw this to you, and then we're gonna change the subject. But I think that's exactly what they did. I think they use LeBron James, and they want to use LeBron James's name and face, number one. And number two, I don't think LeBron James's people know about the situation going on in the Red Sox, because when you investigate, all the people you're asking are the same people who are in charge of handling that situation. It's not like they're gonna hire and investigate a detective to find out what's going on behind the scenes. Amir, your last thought, so we can move on. What you think?
I think that you're absolutely right, Frank. I think what you're saying is correct. I think fortunately, unfortunately, and this is just one of the issues that I usually have with a lot of what we're seeing, and this is no disrespect to LeBron James or any other athlete for that matter. The entertainment industry as a whole has a tendency to utilize specific faces and specific people to quell the masses. And usually the masses are us. That's right. Just something that, plays in my head. LeBron, obviously right now being the face of the NBA as he is, and being the most, having the biggest voice and using his platform to have the biggest voice. To your point, Frank, it looks good if they bring in somebody such as him to kind of quell things for the rest of us, quote unquote. And to make it seem as though, like you said, there is something being done that fixes whatever problems they may be, having to deal with. I think, to your point, we also as fans, we have to do our due diligence, and we have to, look behind the curtains and see if everything shakes out the way that it's supposed to shake out. We, tend to leave that up to our spokespeople who we think are entertainers and stuff like that. But as fans, we got to do the same thing. Our due diligence is for everybody. It's not just for the superstars and so forth and so on. It's for us as well, because once you start understanding that part of it, then you can use your voice and your platform to go, I don't know if I'm so keen on that. You know what I mean? Like I said, I think that LeBron is, who he is, but I think we all have to, collectively now start to do better as well as, being fans like we are. You know what I mean?
Well, I want to move on. Last thing about this, I want to move on, but I think it's too far gone, and LeBron ain't gonna be able to heal it in the Boston market. He might heal, some feelings on the national level, but people really don't care outside of Boston. But it's too far gone here. You know what I mean? It's 2021. You should address this back in the 70s when it was happening, but in the 60s, it's still happening. So I don't know. Let's move on. Another hot topic I want to talk about is yesterday I did this Pelican brief. We were having a good time with my Pelican brief and everything else. But now something happened that in the last 24 hours with Deshaun Watson that is very concerning. That takes the funny jokes off the table, because Deshaun Watson had a suit filed against him from a woman who said that I don't know, when she came into his home, he had some inappropriate conduct and something to do sexual, so inappropriate conduct. Now, we all know that threw my Pelican brief right out the window because Bill Belichick is not taking no player out. I don't care who you are with some kind of sexual allegations against you, because that's the reason why Antonio Brown got out of here. He didn't have Antonio Brown was doing a civil case. He got off the team in a week. He played one game. He was on the team literally 10 days. As soon as the sexual allegations came across, the Patriots got rid of him just like that. So the Patriots not dealing, as you know, their organization is really, really disturbed with issues in the law. They have issues with the law when it comes to this. So let me throw this out to you, if they can say, when you hear, because looked like Amir bounced out for a second, but when you hear that there is issues going on with Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson is having a sexual kind of allegation thrown out to him, what's your thoughts when you hear this first thing? What's your first thought?
My first thought is the first thing I want to say is I know that women are sexually harassed, molested, accosted, all that stuff like that. I know that it happens. But on the other hand, I know that there are some women that use that to be able to gain position and money or power. They use that situation to be able to get themselves in a better situation financially. And with this particular situation, we're talking about a young man who didn't have anything in his background up until now. Now he says that he wants out of Houston. And all of a sudden, this allegation just seems to come out of nowhere. I raise my eyebrows because I've seen this before. I've seen this play, and I read the playbook. It's gone down so many times, and unfortunately, it seems to always include the African American male, whether they're guilty or they're not guilty. It always seems to be when somebody is in prominence, there's always some type of allegation. You talk about Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson, you talk about Prince, you talk about Antonio Brown, O.J. Simpson. You can talk about so many times that the allegations against man. We can even talk about Michael Vick. You know what I mean? He's being sent to prison because he was part of a dogfighting ring. Michael Vick is the only person that I know that ever went to prison for that. And since he's went to prison, we've never, ever, 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 ever heard anything about dogfighting again. As if Michael Vick started it, and when he went to prison, it was over. I just don't like it. It smells of slander, and I unfortunately that's my take on it, and I really don't like it. I don't like it. It seems too convenient now.
Let me
and I don't like it at all.
Samir, seeing that you're with us, bro. I know your internet's bouncing in and out. Can you talk to me? Tell me what your thoughts are real fast before I lose you again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the Deshaun Watson thing. Fortunately, unfortunately, I think that this is, speaks to some of the other topics that you gentlemen have covered. Obviously, in weeks past, especially when it comes to sports and entertainment, we find that usually when somebody is trying to move, at least what appears to be a power move on their part, looking out for their best interests, seemingly all of a sudden we have things coming out of the woodworks that didn't seem to be there prior to this person speaking their mind. And personally, I find it despicable. That's not to say that it is or is not any validity to the situation, but I just find it hard that every time we see some sports figure or somebody trying to, like I said, do what seems to be in their best interest, especially when it comes to sports, there's this other underswirl of things that start to come up, or talk and chatter about things that they supposedly did or did not do. And to me, it's kind of getting old for me personally as a fan and as, somebody who enjoys sports. But I wish that, we had a better situation where this wasn't exactly how, people are being represented. The character, the fact that these guys have put in the work that they put in, usually with these organizations, that should be what, we're judging people on and understanding that that's what, really counts. And what they do off the field, not that that isn't a part of who they are, but that's a separate entity for us to have to deal with, or that we should deal with as such. That's the way I look at it.
All right, let me say,
answer your question.
Before I forget, it looks like Rodney Perry is watching the show. I can't tell because I can't see the names of the people on my side. So if Rodney Perry's watching the show, Rodney, what's up, man? You should be on the show, not watching the show. Let me just say that. Before I even continue on, I got to say this one thing. And I want to see if you all even think this too. Isn't it funny? Isn't it curious that this thing came out while Houston is trying to keep Deshaun Watson and lowering, and right now this thing is lowering his value? I mean, what is the I mean, when you look at it, like, how did this happen right now? It's not like he did this last night. You know what I mean? He didn't do this last night. This incident didn't happen last night. But isn't it curious that this thing came to national attention at the same time he's trying to get out of Houston and Houston's trying to keep him? It seems like that. Now, this is just my speculation. It seems like that the powers to be behind the scenes made sure that this got first and foremost put out there, because something happened that I read last night and this morning. Very telling. Here's the thing. The lawyer approached him and asked for a settlement immediately. Really? You going to try to extort me real fast? Fig, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, like I said, I don't like it. And whenever you look, this is the same organization that when Kaepernick took a knee, one of the owners in the organization or the executives in the organization said, we can't let the prisoners run the asylum. Now Deshaun Watson wants out, and all of a sudden there's this allegation that comes out against him from a woman who gave him a massage. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of women that give athletes massages, and then for some reason, when things don't go right, or when they want to put something against you, it seems to come out. Same thing with Antonio Brown. Dave Chappelle walked away from what is it, Comedy Central, because he didn't want to do the show anymore. Something went wrong. It was an uncomfortable situation. He walked away from $50 million, and they told Dave Chappelle before he left, we're gonna put out that you went crazy and you flew all the way to Africa so you could go smoke crack. And that's the story that they put out on Dave Chappelle.
Well, let me say this too. Let me throw this out there that I don't think a lot of people even paying attention to either. A lot of men get massages in their own home. Let's just say that. A lot of men. Amir, am I lying? Don't a lot of men get massages in their own home by women who come there? It's just that we call it a different thing other than a massage by the time they get to like a lot of men. But seriously, I just find it really interesting that they're putting forth this smear campaign on Deshaun Watson at the exact same time he's trying to get the hell out of Houston. That's just my thought. Man, what you
think about what you said, Frank? You said that even if it was something that was being set up for him to go to the New England Patriots, now all of a sudden he can't go because there's something negative attached to his name, and a team can't really take him on with something attached to his name like that. So that's sort of like puts the monkey wrench in his chances on being able to leave. I'm going to just come out. This is just my opinion. If I was Deshaun Watson, if I had to wait 4 or 5 years and never play football again, I would not ever, ever, ever play for Houston. I don't care what they said or what they did to me. I would never play for Houston, and I don't care what they did. You can trade me, you can sit me, you can fine me, you can take my money, you can take your contract. I will never, ever, ever play it down for Houston. Never. And I don't care what you do.
All right, let's move on. I'm waiting for Amir to jump back in. I don't know what's wrong with his Wi-Fi, but let's move on. Other big news that jumped off the table was that, especially in the last couple of hours, is that San Francisco is signing offensive tackle Trent Williams to an historic deal, $138 million deal. He's the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history. He's definitely going to help San Francisco keep whatever quarterback they have, in the pocket and keep them safe, because he's one of the best. He's one of the best and has been one of the best offensive linemen, in years. He's been selected to Pro Bowl for the last 8 to 10 years. And I'm going to start with you, Samir, and ask you what your thought process, because it seems like you're going in and out. And I want to get you a chance to say something before you bounce out again. What you think about Trent Williams signing this deal?
I'm sorry. For some reason, my 5G and my Wi-Fi don't want to be, conducive today. So you got to forgive me for the, going in and out. I'm laughing because I'm like, 5G, this is supposed to be the great one. What is the problem? Like, come on, guys. Like, y'all got to get it together. This how I know, they lying to us too. It's the greatest service ever. Is it really? Is it really? Because it's not being great right now. It's not even giving me an opportunity to be great right now. I'm sorry, Frank. What was the question? So this way I can get back on track.
The question was, what are your thoughts about Trent Williams signing a historic $138 million deal as he became the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history? What's your thought about that? What's your thought about him staying in San Francisco and signing that contract? Because it's the highest paid, and whoever the quarterback's going to be, he's got to be comfortable knowing that dude's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, the one beautiful thing, I think about, any of today's players becoming the highest paid anything. I kind of smile about it because I know that, obviously they're standing on the shoulders of wonderful, players who've come before them. I always look at any of the stats when they say things like the highest paid player, highest paid receiver, quarterback, whatever. And I kind of take it with a grain of salt, because to me, it all means absolutely nothing if it doesn't translate into wins and your team being effective this year. You know what I mean? Like, it's a great win for you. So that I'm not taking away from that. But what I'm looking for is you then taking that same, energy that the team and the organization has bestowed upon you to now help turn the franchise either around or make it be a viable franchise. To me, that's what, the highest paid anything should do. It should hopefully motivate you to motivate your team members to now all of us, do what we need to do so that this organization can, stand amongst the other great organizations as far as sports is concerned.
But
so I always, look at it and take it, kind of like I said, with a grain of salt, because, as we know, sometimes these guys get to be the highest paid whatever and have a bust of a season, and we'd be like, well, okay, that went wrong very quickly.
right.
But, again, for, individual accolades and props, you want to, see guys obviously get paid, and especially, and to me, in football, because unlike some of the other sports, football is one of those things that, a wrong situation can, change your whole life. So I'm always happy to see,
Well, let me just say this. I like guys getting paid in football. The only problem I have with that is when they get paid so much money, it doesn't help the rest of the team because you paid so much money on one player. That's my only issue I have with this stuff. Fig, what's your thoughts?
Well, Frank, I mean, to answer what you said, I mean, the owners have set the salary cap. I wonder why. Why would the owners set a salary cap for players? So the owners could take the lion's share of the money. So who's really hurting or helping the team? It's the owners. If the owners want to help the team, then what you do is you raise the salary cap so you can pay the players so they can do what it is they do, because they are the ones who putting their body and their health on the line every single week to go out there on the NFL field and play. But here's the thing. This guy was going to get paid X amount of dollars to stay on his team. And if you asking a guy to leave from one team to go to another team, then you're going to have to overpay for him. I mean, he played his behind off and he got himself in his position where he's one of the best at his position. So if you're going to coax a player away from his team, then you're going to have to pay more than his original team is willing to pay, because this man, like they said, he not only is just him, he has to uproot, he has to move. If he has a family, he has to move his family. If he has children, he got to move his children. His children got to go to a different school and all this stuff like that. So you're going to have to pay for that if you want it.
All right, let me keep the conversation going on. The Bears, Amir, the Bears signed Andy Dalton. Yesterday we were having a conversation about Andy Dalton returning to the Dallas Cowboys. It looks like he's going now to the Bears. He's going to join Nick Foles, and he's going to come off the bench because he didn't get any offers to start anywhere. But I'm going to ask you this, Amir. Andy Dalton going to the Bears for a 1-year deal. Is it going to make the Bears, obviously any better or the same? And here's the other caveat to that. By him joining there and they obviously solidifying that, it takes Russell Wilson off the table. Looks like Amir's 8G, 5G jumped out. So I'll throw it out to you, Fig. Tell me what you think first.
Hey, man, listen, we saw what Andy Dalton did with the Cowboys. Dak Prescott got injured. I believe it was the third game of the season. And Andy Dalton came out there the first game. I mean, he looked great. And then after that, he turned back into Andy Dalton, and that's why he's not a starting quarterback, and that's why he didn't get no offers to be a starting quarterback because he's a backup, and that's what Andy Dalton does. He's Andy Dalton, and going to Chicago, it ain't gonna make him no better than it did in Dallas.
Right.
He's gonna be Andy in Dallas.
And I was just about to add Amir, and Amir bounced out again. I don't know what's going on with Amir's 5G.
I'm telling you, man, Andy Dalton, and you got Nick Foles, who plays great, and then he folds because Nick Foles is a backup too. So basically, Chicago has 2 backup quarterbacks, and it's basically survival of the fittest. Who's going to start? Who's going? It's just crazy, man. They don't have a starting quarterback in Chicago, huh?
It definitely levels out the playing field for the quarterback position, but their defense is so stellar that their offensive line isn't that bad. I feel sorry for Bears fans. I feel sorry for people like Rodney Perry because you got the team. You one QB away. You literally one QB away from being able to make a difference, and then all of a sudden you can't make the difference. Amir can't. Nope. Amir went back out again. I don't know. So let's change the subject.
Well, here's the thing. No, I was going to say, piggybacking on that, it's like, listen, if you have a stellar defense and a decent offense, then basically what you need is a quarterback who's going to manage. So maybe Nick Foles and Andy Dalton could be able to manage the Chicago Bears into something, pretty decent. You never know.
Amir, what's your thoughts about Andy Dalton joining the Bears?
Say that again. I'm sorry, Frank.
What's your thoughts? Yeah, your Wi-Fi is janky, bro. What's your thought about Andy Dalton joining the Bears?
You know what? I mean, look, he did a really decent job, with the Cowboys last year. And I always think to myself, football and most sports are really about getting the right fit for you. You know what I mean? Because you'll have a guy who will play for one team or be on one team and obviously not produce or, be great. And then go to the right situation where everything is, in his favor. And all of a sudden, they flourish. And I think for Andy Dalton last year, because of the fact that he was, playing back up to a gentleman who had already, pretty much solidified himself as far as the Dallas faithfuls were concerned, that had to be rough for him. Again, you couple that with the climate of, what the world is like right now and, all the crazy stuff going on with COVID. So I think for a lot of the players that we're seeing, we're not seeing the best of them because they're trying to figure out this new world that we're in. But I think that it's a great move for the Chicago Bears. And I look forward to seeing what he's capable of doing over there, with Chicago. I really do.
All right. Now let me change the subject and just jump into the NBA because the time is moving fast, man. There were a lot of great games last night and everything else, but there's one thing I want to just ask both of you guys before we even talk about the games and stuff like that. Is do you think either one of you? And I'll start with you, Amir, too, because you leaving in and out so fast. I want to make sure you get a chance. The Lakers, the Clippers, or Utah? Which one of them do you think is going to make a major trade before the trade deadline? Because the simple fact being, you only got not too much longer to do, and everybody knows the Brooklyn Nets are
Mhm.
heads and shoulders above everybody else, and some of these other teams are going to have to do something to make a move real quick. It sounds like you're about to go out, so Amir, you go first.
I feel like I'm about to go out. I don't know why. Like I said, my thing is being very janky today.
Yeah.
Say the question one more time, Frank.
Which one of the teams you think is going to make a major trade to make something happen before the deadline? The Lakers, the Clippers, the Utah Jazz. What you think they're going to do before the trade deadline?
Oh, wow.
At the end of the day, the trade deadline's
That's a
coming
good
up
one.
fast. You got to do something to be able to compete if you want to, make a difference. You know what I mean? You got to do something.
Again, my thing is breaking up, so I can't really hear what you.
All right, I'm free. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is.
I would put it on the Lakers because the Lakers have they have the highest expectation to win. You know what I mean? And they know the piece that they need. I think they need a big they need to solidify that middle. I think they made a big mistake when they let go of Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee to play along with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, because although these guys didn't put up a bunch of points, they were real formidable in the middle in helping anchor the defense when these guys were playing, getting block shots, rebounds and stuff like that. And the Lakers have enough skill players to get the job done, but they don't have that down dirty and gritty big man to help them out with the block shots, defense, rebounds, and stuff like that. So I think the Lakers, because LeBron James is on the team, and when LeBron James is on your team, you're expected to win a championship or at least be able to contend for a championship every year. So I think they're under the most pressure to make a move and to beat everybody out, because it's in the West and you got to go up against, the Clippers and other teams in the West. So I think the Lakers are under the most pressure to make the quickest move and to beat everybody to the punch.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Lakers are under the most pressure because they are the repeat champions also. You know what I mean? It'd be one thing if they weren't the champions, but because they are the repeat champions, I think everybody's looking at them saying, hey, that you guys got to do something because you guys are the repeat champion. You know what I mean? I think that's a huge issue. And the pressure of being that, Craig, we already know the pressure of being a champion, it's huge. Amir, you're back. He's gone again.
Gone. The champion is the hunted. Once you win, yeah. And that's what I say. That's why I think it's difficult for repeats in any sport, because once you're the champion, you become the hunted. Every team is going to give you their best shot. Every team is going to give the Lakers their best shot. So I think that's why they're under the most pressure. And I'll say something else, man, that we haven't talked about. I think with the Brooklyn Nets and the LA Lakers, both of those teams have to be biting their nails, wondering if Anthony Davis on the Lakers and Kevin Durant on the Nets are going to come back this year healthy enough to play and give them an opportunity to win. I think both teams have to be biting their nails with those type of injuries.
Yeah, I mean that's an issue, another topic. But news just came across on my iPad too. The Celtics are going to be without Kemba Walker, Tristan Thompson, and Romeo Langford tonight, and looks like it's going to be because of COVID. So the NBA is still fighting certain issues also. And Amir, I'm going to just ask you real fast because you joined back in. I'm going to ask you because I don't know how long you're going to stay. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Utah Jazz, they all doing very, very well. But who is going? The question is, who do you think is going to make a blockbuster trade before the trade deadline to be able to at least maintain? Fig said the Lakers. I agree. I think the Lakers have to do something because they're under the most pressure as the repeat champions. Who you think, Amir, is going to be able to do something or may do something before the trade deadline?
That's a good question, Frank. To be honest with you, I would probably think it would fall on Utah, because I think that the Lakers and the other team last year, they had such a great run in the playoffs. So we didn't have a situation where, the playoffs had hurt them. It was a situation where the playoffs had put both those teams in a space that we knew that they could operate in. I think Utah was the ones that ran into a little bit of a wall in not being there for the first time. So I think if of the three teams, they'll probably make a trade of some sort to at least give themselves more of a fighting chance. Because I think the Lakers are, familiar with, kind of being at that and that space at that time of the year. And then we remember how what you call it battled them last year in the playoffs. So I think it's going to be Utah if any of those teams. I think they're probably the ones that are going to make a trade.
Right. There's one team I didn't mention because, and that was the Sixers, because the Sixers are doing so well. But Joel Embiid got hurt last night, and he could. I mean, the other night, and he could have this as being a recurring injury and everything else. I didn't mention him purposely. I didn't mention the Sixers purposely because I think the Sixers is probably that one team that probably doesn't need to add anybody to do this, because I think they're doing so well. Also, and I think they could beat anybody right now as the team is built as they are, because they're playing so well and they're being coached so well. What's your thoughts about the Sixers right now, Faye? What you think?
The Sixers seem to be doing well, but listen, it really depends on who they play, because if you play the top echelon teams, then they're going to need Joel Embiid in order to win. You're not going to be able to win without Joel Embiid playing the top echelon teams. Like if you go up against a team like the Clippers, the Lakers, if you go up against the Nets in Brooklyn, you're going to have a problem as a Sixers if you're not, fully equipped with your team. Even if they go up against Milwaukee with Giannis, I don't think that Philadelphia will be able to get by them without Joel Embiid. So they're going to need some help. They're going to need Joel Embiid to be healthy and to be on that team. No, I'm just playing. I was just doing the imitation of Amir. Anyway.
Well, I'm saying right now, Amir, the team as built. I'm saying that Joel Embiid is on the team. I'm saying they don't have to basically do anything, and they can probably, they're probably all set. They're probably the only team that's doing very well, as in do anything. But what's your thoughts? You think the Sixers are doing okay, and you think the Sixers could at least get to the finals with the team as built, or do you think the Sixers should add somebody to their team before the trade deadline?
I think, like Fig said, I think the Sixers, are, a relatively great team already as is. Funny enough, obviously Joel Embiid is a huge piece to their situation over there. But I also think that we don't give, sometimes some of the coaches that deserve, they're just doing their credit. They're just due. Doc Rivers, obviously, seemingly every place this gentleman has gone, he seems to find a way to, take what talent is there and in some way mesh it together in a way that is cohesive and that, everybody kind of understands their roles. Tobias Harris is playing well over there, and, you got a few other pieces. And I've always felt this way, when I look at sports. Obviously, Joel Embiid being down is a major blow to them. Dwight Howard, what are you doing, sir? If ever there was a time to step up, and I know that usually isn't his, forte, and that's not what he necessarily does, but Dwight Howard, this is it, sir. If there was ever a time for you to prove your pedigree, quell all the doubters and this and that and third, this is it. And either until Joel Embiid comes back, or you step in and be the guy that we think that you could possibly be. He hasn't been that yet. We've had moments, we've had glimpses of it, but when is he actually going to live up to what we, think that he's capable of?
Well, let me just say this for the record. Before you bounce out here, you the only one who think that about Dwight Howard. Ain't nobody else think that about Dwight Howard. Ain't nobody think Dwight Howard is going to be able to step in, because he stepped in when he wants to. Like, he has the ability to do it, but he seemed to step in and play when he wants to play. Like when he was playing for the Lakers last year, he played a whole lot better than he did, for the Sixers this year. And what's the difference between last year to this year? Only maybe a couple of months. What happened? Actually, 70 days happened between last season and this season, and your drop off is that much? I don't understand that. Dwight Howard.
I really think, you know what? When you play in a position like Dwight Howard, I think it's basically what they ask him to do. You know what I mean? It's a different system, and what they asked him to do, he was good at what the Lakers asked him to do, and maybe the Sixers are asking him to do a little more, a little different in a different system, and it doesn't allow him to thrive. certain players thrive in different systems better than others.
No, I get all that, but Dwight Howard is not the focal point like he was in Orlando to score. He's not. He's in there for one reason only. That's the rebound the ball. And I'm sure ain't nobody looking at him drawing up no plays for him and everything else. So my point is last year for the Lakers, he was really in there to rebound and not even pass. Don't even just go up there and dunk the ball. The ball come off the rim, and I watched 2 or 3 Sixers games. It's the same thing. So my point is he's not getting that many more rebounds, and he's definitely not scoring like he was. And like to Amir's point, he could be a lot more of a force by proving to the Sixers management and the Sixers coaching that, hey, I am still a little bit good. I ain't that bad. I mean, Mears, am I overspeaking what you were saying, or what?
No, that's exactly what I mean. Like, and for me as a fan, like that's what bothers me, because I'm saying to myself, like you said, Joel Embiid is down. There's no two ways about it. Sir, this is your opportunity to step in. They paying you a salary too. It's called a team. It's not called the one-man show. It's called a team.
Right.
Which means the next person's supposed to step in and step up. When are we gonna ever see this from you?
Right.
You keep telling everybody you're Superman and all this stuff. To who and when? Like,
yeah, exactly. He's Clark Kent. That's it. He ain't Superman. Ain't even came in to be. He's Clark Kent every day. He's Clark Kent every day. And now let me just throw this out there before we get wrap up the show, man. Lamarcus Aldridge looks like he might be on the move to somebody. Somebody might take him up because obviously he's sitting on the sidelines right now. I see that the Raptors are trying to get him. The Lakers are trying to get him. The Sixers are trying to get him, talking to him and everything else. I just don't see of the teams that's mentioned that he's going to make that much of a difference. I don't mind if he goes to the Sixers because he can at least score. You know what I mean? So, Amir, what's your thought process about Lamar Aldridge if he joins the Sixers?
I think if he joins the Sixers, actually, that's a really great pickup for them because, to your point, they get a scorer. They get a guy who, has a low post game. Obviously, he can shoot from the outside too, but Lamarcus Aldridge is really more dangerous from 17 feet down than he is from, going further out. So because the Sixers don't definitively have somebody to fill that void per se, because Tobias Harris is a slasher and a mover, could go down there and really post up and cause some people some issues. So I think that would be a great pickup for him. And I think it would be a nice addition to all of the pieces that they already have. You know what I mean? So I think that would be great, honestly.
Right. Craig, you got 60 seconds. Tell me what you think.
I think Lamarcus Aldridge would be good with the Sixers, giving him maybe 10 to 15 points a game, maybe 5 to 10 rebounds. I think he would do all right on the Sixers. Other teams, I'm not so sure. If less is more. If you ask him to do less, he seems like more of a better player. If you ask him to do more, then he's going to seem like less of a player because he's a little long in the tooth. He ain't a young man no more. So,
yeah, if he gave the Sixers just 8 points a game and 4 rebounds, they would be a lot better. He ain't got to come in and do a lot. All he got to do is come back and do a little. He ain't got to come back and do a lot. Right. Anyway, that's the show, y'all. I want to thank
the show already. That's the show.
That's the show, and I'm sure Amir's thankful because his Wi-Fi has been going in and out. Amir, thank you.
Again, I apologize to you guys, but I do thank you for having me on the show again, man. I always appreciate watching what you guys do every day and the banter and the jokes and everything else, man. I salute you guys because this is it's a tough thing to do. I know people, at home like, look, trust me, it's not as easy as you think it is.
It ain't easy. So, I also want to thank Scruncho for joining the show because he was going in and out too, but he didn't even stay long enough for me to put him up. So, I was bouncing that with that too in his Wi-Fi, but I want to thank him for joining the show for literally 60 seconds. I want to thank Fig for doing the show, and Rodney Perry and Talent Rodney Perry should be back next week or maybe the week after. Talent should be back tomorrow. Fig, tell everybody out there how they can follow you. Oh, Amir, first tell everybody out there they can follow you, and then Fig, you tell everybody how they follow you.
You can follow me on Instagram at ARockSealy. You can follow me on Facebook at Amir Sealy. I'm easy to find. None of it changes. And these wonderful gentlemen, you can find me on either their pages, anything that they're doing, because I support and enjoy what they do. And the box seats on an occasion. So I thank you guys again.
Fig, take us out. Take us home, bro.
Hey, man, the thing is, the reason why you can follow Amir is because he ain't got no child support case, so he's easy to find. You can follow your boy, Comedian Fig, on social media platforms all Monday through Friday, baby, right here on the box seats, 1 to 2 p.m. This is the best damn sports show on TV, and I don't give a damn what nobody say. What?
Our Wi-Fi might be the greatest, but we still bring it home. Hey, you know the name of the show? I'm Frank Holder. This is also on the Humor Mill channel. You can download the app. We're everywhere. Please tell a friend, tell a friend. We'll be back tomorrow with some more special guests because that's what we do. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock, y'all. Thanks for joining the show, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.